gaming, possible addiction. Betting companies obviously offer education. MasterCard offers money management, personal budgeting schemes. Where does the responsibility part fit into that with a lot of what you're doing, and how does that dovetail in? I guess it's another one for you, Humza, to start with, is it?
Well, maybe I'll start and then I'll pass it off to Sumit on some of the betting strategies we've looked at. Like, I think as an organization, we can't control what people do. People bet today and they want to bet tomorrow, then that's fine. I do think the responsibility around how we enable that and what that experience looks like, and how we make sure things like minors aren't getting into bet, like the way we actually build out our products and services. I think those things are all very important to us. We also work with the government very closely. Ontario Lottery Gaming is our regional body that provides our guidance from a provincial perspective. So, and while betting and gambling is not set in stone yet, even for our province and even for our country, I think eventually it'll get there. And I think it's a way in which we actually operate these programs and provide some protections. But Sumit can also comment on this. Him and his team have been looking at this quite deeply.
Yeah, I think, to build on that, I think the other thing, Mark, going back to our strategy, the community is a key pillar in our strategy. So we're constantly making sure that we are improving the lives of people in our community. So, just like we serve alcohol responsibly in our building, but alcohol is there to sell. People want it. We're going to be responsible in how we give it to them. We're going to make sure the people that can get it can buy it, and the people that can't. And at the end of the day, it is a way for us to help, sell. So you can't ignore the fact that we live in a world where things like that can be consumed responsibly. I think sports betting, we're just earlier in the days, but our principles around community responsibility and the partnerships that Humza talked about are going to make sure that what we do is going to be responsible and thoughtful, and it's going to have the controls in place to make sure that we're not enabling and we are, preventing any, irresponsible use of that stuff. And we think about that with everything, right? We are in the concert business, and you can't control the lyrics of an artist that's going to show up and sing in your building. We're in the esports business, and there are games that are built around shooting people. We have to be responsible, but we also have to recognize our role versus helping our fans and customers, know their role.
Wow. There's such a rounded organization you've got that whatever we're chucking at you, you guys have looked into it. Let's have a look at this one. Humza, says Oliver L. Clearly you've been successful in implementing digital technology into your different sports teams under the company umbrella. You mentioned that you would license certain apps that did certain things. Would you share sports advantages as well? Would you share some of that stuff to sporting rivals?
It's a great question, one that we've talked about deeply. I think it's easy for us to build a commercial platform around mobile or revenue generation or a stadium experience or digital experience and share that with the rest of the sports industry, because the rising tide raises all boats, and why should everybody go recreate everything that is required by everybody to begin with, especially if it doesn't exist. But on the pro sports side, I firmly believe, this is maybe my personal opinion here, is that there's technologies that are out there that help everybody. And there's ways to look at things like every team, a little bit under the covers here on sports performance, every single pro team has an athlete management system. It's called an AMS. And the AMS, you can compare that to a business CRM, right? It has all of your stuff in it. And while every single team has an AMS, the way in which they use the data is the competitive advantage, not having the AMS. And so we feel like if there are platforms around sports performance that we can provide that help to collect, to display, to calculate different things, different teams might be able to use them for different elements of what they deem to be performance enhancers. We would never give up ours. We would never tell you what we're doing with it. But is there a world in which we would leverage a platform that doesn't give away any of our secret sauce? Absolutely. We haven't gone there yet. It'll be probably the last thing we do on commercialization, because we want more championships and more championship rings. But I think that's a great question, and a big difference between the business side and the pure sports side.
It was a good question, Oliver. I think the answer is it's a bit like selling somebody an IKEA bookcase, but DIY one, but don't give them the instructions how to put it all together. Final point for both of you. I am going to ask you for your sort of tips for our students. But before that, 2016 League of Legends Summit, you talked about it kind of transformed a big part of how the organization works. So in your case, I'm going to give you the same amount of time again. I'll give you another 4 years. What would you expect to get through on the horizon? Where do you think the organization might be in the areas you cover in 4 years' time? Your challenge is 2 years, Humza, because that's when you started the digital lab and things. Okay, I think you said 18, didn't you?
That's a great question. So where are we in 4 years? I think probably 3 things to talk about. I think esports is becoming less of an offshoot and more as just another part of our business. And what we do in esports is no different than we're doing with concerts or running pro teams. You know, maybe that includes running a pro franchise at a larger level than Raptors Uprising. Maybe it's just continuing to hold major events. I think we're going to be much more active in the grassroots community around, you know, Toronto and in Canada. Around, you know, innovation. I think what Humza talked about, we are going to deliver the best experience that you have, whether you're in your seat in the building or you're at home. But we are gonna be known as the best in the industry that levels up what it's like being a fan of one of our teams, to watch a game, to feel the immersive experience of it. And people are going to be talking about how to do it like MLSE. And then the third part of it is probably, I think we're going to be more democratized in how we work. I think in today's world, it's, you know, especially in our backyard, MLSE is a large sports organization and there's very few companies that are like us, but the innovation's coming from all around us. I think, you know, we've become, because of the technology and digital space that we're in, we're much more attuned that talent is everywhere, good ideas are everywhere. And I think the working model in which we work in our industry, in our community, to bring good ideas to fans, it's going to be more seamless and less barriers than it was, you know, today or it was a few years ago.
And Humza, without giving away any of your great ideas, 2 years down the line, what sort of innovations do you think might apply? What kind of things do you think MLSE might have done?
I think in 2 years, I think sports performance let me start on that side. I think sports performance will be at par with the way sports performance is thought today around data science. But I think every team in every league in the world will be using computer vision, artificial intelligence. I think there'll be a concept of a data scout, you know, and the way players are scouted from across the world. And I actually think leveraging technology and sensors and AI and ML will actually make sports that much more competitive and that much more harder to get an edge, because while athlete performance continues to increase, you know, you're pretty much at par when you get to the pros. I think the way in which that competitive differentiation today, if it's 5% today, I think it'll be down to 1%. And I think it'll be all in those little the bits and bytes of how competition is described. And I think every team will continue to invest in it in big ways. We call it Moneyball 2. We call it the collision of data, which is Moneyball 1 was all about data and a little bit of insight. But you still have to figure out what was going on. And so we call what we're doing really Moneyball 2, which is a collision of data, software engineering, and design. And it's about making decisions faster, not the data. So I think that's going to progress greatly. I think on the sports and fan side, I think we will continue to be in a world where you will be able to watch sports no matter where you are. I think you'll be able to drop a hologram on your dash in your car and watch a game. I think it'll be with 5G and those kinds of supporting technologies now just here now. I think it'll be however you want to watch the game. If you want to watch 5 minutes of a game, I think it'll be microtransactions. And I think you'll be able to interact with players in the game in real time with your friends, all in one place, all in one interface, whatever that interface is.